the clapper.
Is it on, Joe? Hello everybody, what's up? Dennis Allen here, live from the Inglebean Coffee Shop in lovely Millheim, Pennsylvania. It's our first ever monthly, look there's Chris, Story Slam, and first person up on deck today is Marcia? Marcy, sorry, yeah, I dated a Marcia, sorry.
Short for Marceline.
Marceline, alright.
It's using your French name.
Alright, you're on.
Very French, okay? Hello, Marceline Forstmeyer. Greetings all. Apparently it's okay to drink at this time of the day here, so I'm going to be here a lot. Sure. So I want to tell you a quick story about one of the greatest men to ever live. And when I say great, I'm not talking about good, as in morally good. These are morally reprehensible people who have a great impact on the world and everyone around them. Okay? One such person is a man by the name of Jack Parsons. He was born in 1914 in Los Angeles. His birth name was Marvel Whiteside Parson. I don't know what's going on with the white side in the middle of the name. What the hell? I don't want to get into the politics of that. But the first name proves to truly be just absolutely fitting. So, he's born in 1914. At the age of 14, he builds his first rockets. He shoots them up. He's 14 in the desert, shooting homemade, for real rockets. Like, not homemade bottle rockets, like fuel-powered rockets. He's 14. That is amazing. For that alone, he should be recognized and known throughout the world as one of the great men. But no, he's not known for that at 14. He's only famous for one thing. He invented liquid and solid fuel for rockets. That's it. Everything else is utterly unknown. Okay? But he also predicted the moon landings. Pretty cool. But here's where it gets interesting, which is immediately, okay? 14, building rockets. He goes to college, normal college, so I guess not immediately. But then he gets into Marxism, only for 2 years. So it's no big deal. And then forget about it, okay? Forget about that little detail, that specific one detail. Forget about it, okay? He was a Marxist just a little bit for 2 years. Anyway, he moves on, and he does what any person would do after being in Marxism. He joins a cult after he meets another great man, Aleister Crowley. Yes, he is as evil as his name sounds. He was born in England, the town of London, I believe, and he does what anybody would do on his honeymoon. He goes to, I think you all know what I'm going to say, Egypt. Obviously, he goes to Egypt, and he has his honeymoon in the shadow of the pyramids. And after the first night, you know, and when everything comes with that on your honeymoon, he's standing out there on the balcony, presumably naked. This guy's insane. And he has a vision of a god. Okay? This guy comes down, and he says, Aleister, buddy, I think you know what I'm going to say. I think it's pretty obvious. And he says, oh, I know you're going to say it. It's going to sound, I'm going to feel so dumb. And he says, right, we need to start the age of Horus. And he's like, oh, I feel like such an idiot. I should have known that we're talking about moving into the age of Horus. Okay, how long am I going? What's the time right now?
Oh,
4.5.
Okay, just 5? Do you want me to just
no,
cut
keep
out?
going.
Okay, when you guys want me to stop, just give me a little nod if you want me to wrap it up, okay? No one will see
It's
you
your
voting.
story.
I won't judge. Okay. But you guys are the audience, right? You have some rights here. Let's make this democratic. Okay, so for that alone, Aleister Crowley is a great man. Which is a cool thing about great people. they're surrounded by great people. All like the greatest writers grew up like next door to all the great writers, or like bumped into each other at college. It's crazy, but it's true. But true. So he does what anybody would do, you know, in order to usher in the age of Horus. He goes around all the world and goes to all the cults, of course, and he says, "You guys want to be part of my cult?" And they say yes. All of them say yes. Just think about the craziest person in your life, okay? Now imagine a room full of them and they're all different, okay? These are the people of cults. These are the nutcases of your life. It's me. It's a miracle I'm not in a cult. So anyway, this is what he does, but then, oh no! World War II! It starts! Oh no! So Aleister Crowley does what anybody would do when the war starts. Of course you have to serve your country. You have to. He, of course, defects to Germany immediately. War starts. Not a shot has been fired. Aleister Crowley's a Nazi. For real, he's a Nazi. So the war goes on. The war ends. I think you know what happens. I mean, come on. The Nazis lose. Obviously.
All right. Hard to follow that story. My story is more about me and my former life being, I don't know if you noticed, I came from an automotive background. I was an auto mechanic and working at chop shops and cutting up brand new Mercedes, things like that in Newark, New Jersey. I get a job in the big city. I go from, you know, working in a chop shop to working with like celebrities and things like that. So this is a story about my first kind of like TV movie kind of like premiere kind of thing, so see if you could guess the show. So it's me, my boss, and one of the other sales managers in my old company, Verizon, and we get these tickets to this, you know, one of my new customers. They're doing a TV show, and the TV show is wrapping up, and so they invite us to the party. So, you know, we go to the party. It's in the Rainbow Room in New York City, like, you know, one of the fanciest places in Manhattan. You know, we all got suits on, looking all sharp and fly, no beard, so, you know. So we go there, you know, there's a cute girl on the dance floor. I was like, oh, she looks familiar. I'm trying to dance with her the whole time, and you're like, ooh, whatever. And she's kind of like blowing me off, whatever. So I go to the bar, and it's a bunch of like, you know, like model guys, you know, bartenders. So I just walk up, I'm like, hey, you know, it's like, helps me out. I was like, what can I get you? And so, you know, I order a drink, and there's a girl next to me, and she's like, boy, I'm the wrong sex. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, I've been standing here for 5 minutes, and I can't get a drink. You walk in, and you just like step there, and they're blocking you. I was like, it's okay. Okay, I've got some pull here. So he comes back, orders, you know, I'm like, oh, can she get a drink too? And so she gets a drink. So she turns around, she's like, oh, you know, what are you doing here? Why are you at the party? And it's like, oh, you know, I'm helping out with the cell phones of the, you know, the show and everything. And I turn to her and I say, why are you here? And so she starts laughing. She's like, you haven't seen the show, have you? I was like, no, not really. She's like, well, my name's Kim Cattrall and I'm on the show. And the girl you were dancing with before, that was Sarah Jessica Parker. So it was the show Sex and the City. So that was my first like time really interacting with like celebrities, and I'm hitting on, you know, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kim Cattrall was like just hanging out at the bar, chit chatting. So it was a, you know, not as crazy a story as yours, but that was my first. Well, yeah, that was my first experience in the celebrity world, and after that it was a lot more crazy stories than that one. That's my story. That's all I got. Come on down every
month,
once a month for Story Slam from 3 to 5 at the Inglebean. Yes, we have one more. Lane Whitmer. Woo!
Oh, you want to take
You
over?
can do it. You're the cameraman.
I'm gonna tell a story about my sister. She's definitely cold material, but she's a little too logical. I don't think she never did it. I mean, she joined a couple of Catholic religions, which is close, I suppose, but she never joined a cult. But when we were kids,
Shout out.
she was she would babysit me a lot. She's 3 years older, and so have you been to Knoebels? Like, it's a hometown amusement park. They have all the rides and things, and then there's also a swimming pool. And back in the day, before children's safety was important, we had this that tower. Does anyone remember the tower? Yeah, there was 3 platforms on the diving board. So it was 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet maybe? That sound right? My sister was just old enough to go on the high one. It looked like 100 feet. So she was maybe in 5th grade and I was maybe 2nd or 5th. Yeah, so I couldn't go on. She could make me go over there with her because she was babysitting. She'd sit me down on the bench and she'd climb up to the very top to this platform, 30 feet. And she was skinny and white and had this stringy blonde hair and ill-fitting swimsuit. Go to the edge, do it again, and she would just step off. And the point of the story is she uses this now, grown up. She's like, if there's anything you're afraid to do, think of high dive after Knoebels. All you have to do is take one step, and the rest happens.
I love that.
You got it.
That's great.
2 seconds, 1 step. Done. That's my step.
That's a great one. Thank you, everybody. Joe,
Yo,
you got a story? You had one. You had one, Joe.
I had one.
You're on camera. YouTube's asking.
YouTube.
YouTube's asking, Joe.
All right,
Let's do it.
I can try this.
Let's
Let
do
me-
it.
I'm
All right, story from Joe Ebling.
Yo!
I'm doing
Should I
it.
be closer?
No, you're good.
I back up a little bit.
No, he's good. All right, listen to
I
her.
need this light right here.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, this is the local history story based on the Civil War, which I like. It was back in 1858, like 2 years before the Civil War broke out. The people in Lewistown, PA, got together and they knew something was brewing in the South, so they started drilling, and they called themselves the Logan Guards. So they're drilling for 2 years, and then Abraham Lincoln gets elected, and he's down in D.C., and Fort Sumter breaks out and stuff, and they're looking around for people that are, ready to rumble and be in the army, and the Logan Guards were like the only ones that were prepared, and they drilled. So Lincoln called and say, "Go on down and guard Washington and guard me," but they took the railroads back then down to Harrisburg and through Baltimore and D.C. But they heard ahead of time that in Baltimore they got some Southern sympathizers, and they get down there and they had their muskets, but they didn't have any ammo. But they had the little percussion caps, the little brass caps that go on the rifles. So they half-cocked their rifles and put the percussion caps on there, and they had to walk between trains, so for like a mile, and they had to deal with these people. But when they marched to the other one train station to the other, the riders, or whatever you want to call them, the bad guys, saw that they were half-cocked and had the percussion caps like ready to fire, like they were loaded. So they walked through town, and they didn't get harassed because they had their rifles. They appeared to be ready. So they switched trains and made it back down to D.C. to Washington, which is fine. But then, a month later, this New York company of soldiers come through Baltimore, and they had to walk between the stations, and they got attacked, and some of both sides got killed.
Wow.
So, and then they went on through, but they were the first ones. The Logan Guards were the first ones to be ready and make it through town. And the moral of the story is, go through life. If you go through life half-cocked, you don't have to deal with anyone's bullshit.
Woo! Yeah, Joe! Anybody else? Chris, your last one.
I got no stories.
Amish driving stories, crazy jail stories, prison breaks.
mode
Oh, we're not supposed
stories.
to talk about you prison break, are we?
Nothing I can think of.
All right, that's it, folks. See you next month. Dennis Allen out.
Word.
Joe too.
Peace.
But then we hire like a shit ton of their scientists and we give them a pass. Yeah, it's good. We all make mistakes. Alright, the white nationalist in the White House. It's literally true. Literally true. Anyway. The war ends. Aleister Crowley, he goes unpunished. Nobody scratches their heads because nobody asks people the question. But this is the truth. Turns out he had been a spy the entire time. Hard left turn, right? What a twist in the tail. It turns out he was a spy the whole time. He goes on to be a spy for the British Intelligence Service, BIS, for the remainder of his life, including all his time with this cult stuff. And then he does what anybody would do, which is write a book about Thelema, the mother goddess of the universe, right? And then talk about all the things that are gonna happen. This is a major part of the story. So he's been running this cult, he gives out this book, and it's like the New Testament, right? We had like the original text, which is another thing he just made up. He just makes up books and then he sells it. This is what cults are. They just make up shit and then they sell it. It's crazy. Well, it's not crazy. It's just good business. I mean, it's just really good business. Like, you get so much money. Anyway, it spreads, his religion. And Jack Parsons, back to Jack Parsons now. He meets Aleister Crowley in London. And he joins the cult immediately, and is immediately put in charge of an entire lodge in Los Angeles. He lives in a mansion, and that's where he runs it from, okay? In this mansion, like imagine this room, okay? Like this whole building, all the way up there. That's like 1/12 of the house. Like honestly, it's like 3 stories and a massive basement. Have you ever been in one of those basements that just like, in like an old house? Like even small ones, just because of all the additions, you could just like walk through all these like warrens. It's like in Silence of the Lambs. With Kill Bill, I'm like, suddenly, do not trust at all, my friend. Like, oh God. She thought he was okay too. That's how they get you. It's because you don't pay attention to movements. Which how is just how we know we survive. So anyway, he joins this cult. And Jack Parsons begins a new kind of lifestyle while working as a full-time rocket scientist, a rocket engineer for the government, okay? He starts this new lifestyle. He starts coming into work. His clothes are rumpled. His hair is ruffled. His eyes are he's tired. He's sleep deprived. This is because all night long he has been having, this is explicit here, so I'm sorry, but it's true. He has orgies every night with multiple women all the time. Okay? So at this point, of course, while living this lifestyle, he gets married to a lovely woman named Helen. But then they have a nice, they're living in a mansion. They have all these crazy people who do whatever they make up. It's fun. But then it was a good thing that came to an end. Jack Parsons, well, he fell in love with a woman named Sarah. Now, it's only interesting about Sarah. Well, there's 2 very interesting things about Sarah. The first one is that she's 16. He's 28. So that's going to be an interesting relationship. Oh, this is the other thing. Sarah is Helen's sister. Okay? So he goes, I'm going to divorce you, Sarah, and I'm going to divorce you, Helen, and I'm going to get with you, Sarah, my sister-in-law. Okay, now this is where it gets very interesting. L. Ron Hubbard moves in. If you've never heard of L. Ron Hubbard, I'm amazed. He's another one of the great men, a fiction writer, a science fiction writer who creates a religion, a cult. I'm sorry, and this very similar. I'm never gonna get to Hollywood now because I passed Scientology. Anyway, at this time though, L. Ron Hubbard is a Thelemite, a follower of Thelema, and wouldn't you know it, Sarah. Oh, Sarah's just she's jived to his rhythms, and Sarah leaves. She leaves Jack Parsons for L. Ron Hubbard. Can you imagine L. Ron Hubbard breaking up your marriage? That would be like, to Scientologists, that would be like Moses fucking up your life. Moses. He parts the waters. Like a decade later, he just fucks your life up. It's so funny. Okay, but now all the boring stuff is over. Now we can get to the really interesting stuff. As a part of his lifestyle, which kind of like slowly progresses to this point, he starts. He's not just eating and sleeping and not, or eating and not sleeping. I don't know. He's not just not sleeping and having orgies. He's also imbibing and inhaling and consuming a great deal of controlled substances. Allow me to give you a taste of what it was like by reading to you or reciting to you a poem that Jack Parsons wrote. It's a excerpt from an untitled poem. Okay? Do you guys know who Don Quixote is? He was this nut job that is an insanely long 2-book series about. It was just insane and just windmills. So if you identify with Don Quixote, you realize you're on futile courses. Okay? So this is how the poem goes. I hyped Don Quixote, like I respect him, like I hold him in high esteem. I hyped Don Quixote. I live on peyote, marijuana, morphine, and cocaine. In my heart there is no sadness, but a burning of the brain. Holy crap. Also, just to give you the full picture, he was on amphetamines and opiates, which, holy shit. And he was on a thing called mescaline, which I looked it up. Didn't understand all the weird blobs with the lines, like what are they called? Molecules? Didn't understand that at all. I was like, yeah, that's chemistry. It's bullshit. Anyway, turns out it's like if you've ever had an acid experience, imagine the worst parts of it, okay? Now, imagine if you've ever taken mushrooms, the craziest part of it, and put those together and isolated that, that's mescaline. He's taking all of this, drinking it down with a lot of liquor, okay? This is a great man. He surpasses, to an almost mythical level, consumption of controlled substances. Oh my god, this guy makes the guy from Wolf on Wall Street look so tame. Like he's just like, oh, he's just doing a little cocaine all the time. I mean, he's no Jack Parsons. So that's another reason he should go down in history as one of the great fellas. One of the great fellas to ever live. Anyways, to get to the next misadventures. Oh, no, keep in mind, just before I go to the next adventure, the entire time he's doing all these drugs, he's not sleeping, and he's working as a rocket engineer for the U.S. government, the military branch, okay? That's what it takes to be a rocket scientist. Boy, this isn't rocket science. I'm not on a grocery list of drugs. I mean, you gotta be hardcore to be rocket scientist, I guess. Anyway, is it okay? Do you guys want me to stop now? Do you guys?
No, what about the drum roll?
No.
I'm waiting for the comments.
Oh no! Wait a second. I'll just jump ahead to this point. Okay, quick thing. He gets caught for the Marxism because the Red Scare happens, but he was only a Marxist for 2 years. That's what he gets caught for. Okay. And just as this happens, he's living in, or just before this happens, he's living in his mansion. L. Ron Hubbard's with his ex-sister-in-law, ex-wife, and living with his other ex-sister-in-law, ex-wife, with their new men, okay? And by gum, he feels lonely, so he does what anybody would do. I think you all know what I'm about to say. He goes into the desert with a bunch of people and has a blood orgy. In a very special desert where they tested the A-bomb. He goes to that desert, has a blood orgy, and they're like, Sarah, you just sit in the middle, okay? No one touch her. For some reason, she doesn't get pregnant. That no one, I guess, like had good enough aim. But that's so gross, I know, I'm sorry. But it is gross, but it's true. It's true. So, it doesn't work for like 4 weeks, so they're like, what do we gotta do? I mean, we gotta change our tactics. We gotta zig. We've been zagging, we gotta zig now. We gotta trial and error, let's learn from our mistakes. And they go, oh, duh, Aleister Crowley comes in. They call, like, we need to call Aleister Crowley. And he comes in. A horse just went by. What century is this? This is amazing. I feel like him in like, yeah, I just saw a horse go by.
Well, there's
Live commentary. So anyway, he tries to summon, they're trying to, of course, summon Babylon, the mother goddess of dilemma. So, anyway, of course that's what they're doing. Doesn't work. And then they're like, oh, it just, Sarah needs to join in, of course. So they try it again a bunch of times, still doesn't work. And then 2 weeks later, he bumps into a woman and says, you're the Babylon, you're the goddess, and we're not going to tell you. For no reason, we're just not going to tell you that we think you're the mother goddess. Anyway, that actually just ends. Like, that's where that story ends. We don't, that the trail runs cold on that part. But he gets caught as a Marxist. And so he can't get work as a rocket scientist anymore with the government. So he has to go to Israel. He goes to Israel, of course. I don't know. I mean, if he went to Peru, I'd be like, what? Just like, it's like he went to Russia. What? Like, this is preposterous. He went to Australia. Huh? I don't know. It's baffling. I don't know what to do here. It scrambles my mind. Anyway, so then he's building rockets for the Israeli military branch. Totally legit, as legit as that. Well, turns out he gets accused of all things, who could have seen this coming, stealing classified documents of rockets and selling them. There is substantial evidence for this happening. What a badass motherfucker. This guy is so crazy. I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but there's so many details, it's just, it's too much. Anyways, skip ahead. Israelis kick him out. He goes to Mexico, trying to help set up an explosives factory. That falls through. You know how these things work. So he goes back to the States. He starts like gun smuggling and what's the other thing? Nitroglycerin. Okay, he's just going around with like a saddle bag of nitroglycerin when it was like you did this and it exploded. You know, so that's what he did for a living for a while, and he never died. Never died. Ever. He was the only one. Anyway, he never dies. And then he opens up, as he must, basically, a laboratory in his garage. And he's taking in orders like, oh, we need a bunch of that mescaline stuff. He's like, oh, orders up. Here you go. It's pre-made. Made to order sheets. But you can like order mescaline at a drive-thru window. That's my kind of sheets. Wow. I've never even seen that. I barely know what it is. Anyway. Then tragedy. Oh wait. And then this is a tragedy. And then ready? In his laboratory He dies by an explosion. Oh no! What? They must have been the most ironic moment in that motherfucker's life after so long of not exploding. But this is where it gets serious. A couple of his colleagues say, hey, you know Jack Parsons, it's a good buddy of mine. We did mescaline. Have you ever heard of that? I did mescaline with Jack Parsons, and then we built a bomb, and it worked. And then I summoned the god. He said all this to me. But then, in the workstation, he was very fastidious, very cleanly. He just never made a mistake ever in his entire life, and all his old colleagues come forward and say, this is really suspicious, but the police rule it an accident. So some people say that it was an accident, and there are some other people who say it was suicide. And there are some people who say it's murder. But it doesn't matter, okay? Because Jack Parsons, no matter how he died, it would be the most improbable thing to ever happen. Because this guy survived like a street dog. He was a war dog. He lived on peyote. Have you guys ever seen a comedy movie where they do peyote and then they like talk to their dead relatives? Imagine that is your entire experience from the time of being 20. Alright, that is the reason. That whole story. Abbreviated, I must say. I abbreviated it substantially. And censored it. I'm not joking. There is so much more fraud I could get into. Anyway, that's the story of Jack Parsons, and I think that he should go down in history as one of the great fellas. Thank you.